Eureka 7 has one of the greatest OPs of all fucking time. You start this shit up and you get hit immediately. That fucking energy, that fucking flow song, right? And it's just like you feel the show's aesthetic like instantly, right? It's fucking perfect, right? And so like we just look at this first sequence, right? Just like visually, we get this fucking just this great fucking shot of like the sea of clouds and Renton just fucking soaring out of it, just emerging, right? Just brilliantly flying through the fucking air, just like an absolute fucking Chad, right? And then we get this parallel shot of the Nirvash, right, going in the other direction, right? And then they converge and then like spiral up into the just into the great fucking blue above, right? And once they reach the very peak of their ascent, right? They pass over the sun, right? And we transition to this fucking cut. This is like the craziest transition I've ever fucking seen. This is literally fucking insane. Like, so first of all, it you have this like perfect like match cut of the sun being in like the same location and a subsequent pan that goes down, right? A reverse of the previous cut moving upwards towards the sun, right? But furthermore, the transition is fucking seamless because it uses the fucking lens flare of the camera pointing at the sun as a literal fucking transition to this next sequence, right? Which not only like masks the transition beautifully, but also creates an entire fucking implication as we pan down to this fucking complete like this gorgeous fucking shot, right, of Renton, this fucking lonely motherfucker sitting on this little fucking hill, his little usual like spot. And we see this fucker just gazing into the sky, just like just fucking like, um just like gazing up, looking at the sky, holding his fucking board, right? Just like, dreaming about soaring the fucking sky, right? Recontextualizing that opening sequence, right? Like this entire fucking thing, all of like the sequence which we just witnessed is what is effectively his dream. That's what he wishes to that's what he aspires to do, right? And so here he is, right? Here's reality, right? This fucker just sitting in the middle of the fucking just this absolute fucking loner just sitting in the middle of the fucking field, right? And he looks down at his fucking key, which is literally unbeknownst to him the key which allows him to achieve that dream in the first place, right? And while he's just sitting here fucking zoning out in his little fucking world of being a fucking depressed asshole, he turns around and notices Eureka standing right behind him, right? Who's the character who, incidentally, right, mirroring the progression of the show, meets him by complete chance, thus allowing him to fulfill that dream. Meeting her is the first step towards getting there, right? In which, which allows him to join Gecko State, right? So immediately following this, we get this great fucking pan of the supporting cast of like Gecko State, right? The fucking group that he joins, right? And we just get this great fucking shot of like the supporting cast, right? Like you see like it's like just this great fucking pan of them all just standing by this whole fucking like this like spray paint of their logo that they've put on this fucking, right? Almost as if they're like posing for like a group photo or something, And it's like you just see like their fucking the personality in their designs and their outfits, the way the colors of their clothes bounce off of each other, It's like it looks great, The supporting characters are well emphasized in this diegetic shot that really fucking reinforces how strong the character designs are and how good they look on screen together, right? And we pan over and get to Renton just kind of awkwardly sitting here, right, with like right between Holland and Tallahoe, who are effectively, right, his parental figures, right, or they're kind of fulfilling that role for him, right, in this shot, which imitates that kind of like a family photo, right? And then we get this great fucking cut where like Renton just stares intently at the camera while Holland and Tahoe in the back give like these shifting glances at each other as if like there's something between them, right, that has yet to be resolved, right? And then immediately, right, following this, we get this another iteration of an atypical family dynamic in the show, in the context of the show, being that of Eureka and like these kids that she takes care of, right? And so like it's important to note that this shot itself is a transition, right? As the tone of the song begins to sort of, flip around, right? And like this entire shot, like this whole shot just expresses the idea of, a shift, right? Of imbalance, right? The shot itself is literally at an oblong angle. The lighting is somewhat dark, right? Like on Eureka's face, you see like you got this fucking shadow cast over her and like this, kind of moody lighting, right? And you also have like the very serious like stare that she's giving down to the camera, right? And presumably whatever's behind it. And this is reinforced by the sightlines of the kids as well. And we then fucking zoom into Eureka's eye, where we see a fucking reflection of Renton's sister, right? Which directly leads us into into sort of the bridge, right, to the climax, where we get this sequence of flashing imagery in a very, very Evangelion-esque sequence, right? A a fairly fitting homage, right, considering this, considering how this show falls into the meta narrative of, the mecha genre, right? And then Renton finally getting in the fucking Nirvash, powering up, right? With these match cuts of the Nirvash's face, as well as, him and Eureka's, right? As like, he's finally, we're coming full circle, right? He's now, piloting the fucking Nirvash, and we get this great fucking sequence where like the transition into the climax of the song and the chorus is like perfectly timed to this light, going from red to green, right? As if like the visuals themselves are like authorizing the song to kick into full fucking gear, right? And then we just get this fucking, explosion of energy where we see the Nirvash just shoot out, right? In these in this sequence, right, of like three whole cuts, three fucking cuts, right? The first one of the Nirvash shooting off of the launch pad, right? Then we get this tracking shot that just emphasizes the sheer like distance and at a really interesting perspective as well. And then like just the sheer like, just distance of, traveling across that fucking ramp. And then a final third cut from the interior, right? A first person shot, right, as it goes off of the ramp, right, and then and we see this fucking, then we see it transform, right, in all of its fucking glory, and then mirroring the opening of the OP, it just shoots up into the sky brilliantly, like we finally reached it, and then it kind of loops back down, and we see the supporting cast and the in their LFOs and the fucking gecko state shit, right. And then we get to the second hit of the chorus, right, where now it's like we have this action sequence, so like the tension ramps up again, and then we get these enemy LFOs pop up on the screen, and then this fucking crazy fucking action cut, like Bones just wiling out with those crazy camera spins and all, right? And the thing is, right, it's like this fucking cut, like Eureka 7 is full of great fucking animation, but like this cut, it just encapsulates what makes it so fucking great. Like, even though it's super fucking hectic, right? And it would be very easy to fuck this up, right? For it to just be kind of incomprehensible, like, right? But it's like the fucking green trails behind the LFOs creates this like this literal line that allows your eyes to keep track of where things are. So it's just, you just follow it, and it just creates this very natural flow of like where things are moving, right? It's like allowing you to keep track of what's going on in the cut, right? And then, and as well as the explosions as well are very, very exaggerated with this pink fucking like hue, right? Emphasizing them and making, they obviously stand out significantly against the background, right? And are, given full emphasis, thus very thoroughly communicating the idea of, this fucking LFO has been destroyed, right? And just seeing, you know what I mean? It just flows really fucking well, right? It's just a solid cut of action, right? Then we get this, admittedly, a fairly cheap dissolve at the end, right? Just to like a completely disconnected scene, right? But doesn't fucking matter, because this cut of Renton and fucking Eureka awkwardly holding hands is adorable as shit. And it's a great way to close off the the energy, that a breather after that explosion of energy, right, to close off the OP, right? Then we get the title card, and then we get this fucking pull out shot where we see the whole fucking cast, right, just standing in front of the fucking Nirvash, right, in this iconic fucking shot, right? You know, they're fucking once again, like, their designs just stand out and complement each other really well, like, you know. It's good shit, right? This OP's like, this is a top tier opening overall, right? So then you got Eureka 7 AO, right? The sequel that nobody asked for, which came out like what, like like something like 8 years after the original series, right? Which was perfectly complete in its own right. And then they decided to make a sequel. I haven't watched it. I've only seen the OP, and like, this OP's fucking garbage, right? So let's look at this shit, right? So you start off, right, and all right, this opening sequence is fine, right? You get like this, you know, radar, you know, you shoot into the sky, right? We're shooting into the fucking sky, a very similar visual motif, you know, kind of, you know, following that similar progression of the first Eureka OP, right, or the first original OP, right? You know, just seeing these, you know, this shot of the clouds, right, and these LFOs just shooting out of it, right, into the sky, and it's like, regarding the song itself, like, the song is fine, like, it's like, this song is like, it's fine in its own right, like, whatever, right? But like, the cohesion between the audio and the visuals just like does not do the song any favors here, right? So like we contrast this fucking shot of the clouds and like the LFOs flying in the sky, then transitioning to this like overhead shot of the main character running on the ground level, right? And it's like, sure, like, it's reinforcing a very similar idea. In fact, like, the the cuts themselves, like if you overlap them, like, are just very similar, right? It's like they're establishing a very similar idea, presumably, right? It's like, you know, emphasizing the sort of astral insignificance of the main character in comparison to, you know, this fucking wide open world where people have fucking mechs and are flying around and shit, right? But it's like, the thing with the shot is like, it doesn't really make sense. Like, we see the main character running, but like, why? You know what I mean? Like, what is it that we're actually seeing? We're just seeing the character like running along some random fucking path, right? And it's like, sure, it achieves that function, that same idea of, you know, conveying the dichotomy between the protagonist and his environment, right? And like this goal, this like, you know, this literal fucking dream of soar in the skies, right? You know, we then cut down to a level shot on the ground, right? Where we see him just like, you know, we're now on ground level, right? We see him running, like, you know, that's all he can do. You know, you got this bird that flies beside him to like reinforce that kind of dichotomy, but like, it's not like it doesn't work. It's just kind of questionable, right? It's like, what it really is the context of this, and then that's kind of reinforced at the end of the cut when just like one of the LFOs just randomly fucking just like kind of hops down and like just looks at him for a bit, and then you see his, you know, you see his face reflected in its eye, right? It's like, and then it just shoots back out, and it's like, sure, like, you know, it establishes that idea, but it's just a bit, it's just like a bit awkward, I guess, right? It's like, it's just like, it's not nearly as cohesive, right? And it's like, it's nothing offensively bad or anything, but it's just, you know, it's just a bit weaker than the first one. On a fundamental level, like, you think about like the diegetic context for like why we're viewing this imagery in the first place, and it's like, where is he running, right? Like, what is he running to? Like, where is he in the first place? Like, why is he running? You know, it's like there isn't really enough of like a way to ground it to warrant it being structured like this in the first place, right? But it's like, whatever, right? So like, you know, then we get like the protagonist just like, you know, this is fine, right? But then we get one of the cardinal sins of anime openings, where it's like, oh, we need to show the supporting cast, but we can't really think of a diegetic way to incorporate them. So let's just have PNGs of the supporting cast just like flashing by for no fucking reason, right? It's like, the best that you can do with this idea is like to like imply that, like, you know, like, these are the characters who he thinks about that are like, you know, relevant in his life. It's just like fucking like, but like, it's such a shitty, lazy ass way to do it, right? It's like the fucking dumbest way you can do it, right? It's not, and you know, they just continue with it. It's like, not only is it just lazy, it just looks bad. Like it just doesn't look very good to just have them just awkwardly slapped into the scene, right? And it's like, at least it's not as bad as having the characters just floating in like abstract space. Like at least it's like, oh, the main character is sitting down in this environment and like thinking, you know, and like, you know, thinking about these other fucking dudes, right? So then, you know, we get this, you know, this transition where he's like, you know, we get this sort of like, these three sequences that transition in building up momentum, right? More supporting, more supporting character fuckery, right? But whatever, right? We get these cuts that like incrementally build up the momentum, like kind of as we build into the bridge of the bridge to the chorus, right? But it's like again, like he just like the energy ramps up musically and like visually, like he starts running faster. Like the transitions themselves are fine, but then it's like it just feels like yeah, like we have this energy built up, but like for what? It's like what is the point? It's like, and then we get this weird fucking cut where like an LFO just comes out of the ground suddenly, and the cut itself just looks really awkward, and it's like what even is happening, right? And it just feels like an excuse to have like an action cut, right, transitioning into the climax, right? And then like here we are. It's just like here's the big action cut at the end of the fucking OP, and it's like okay, fine. You get this girl reflected in the visor, right? It's like how did he get here, right? It's like now he's on an LFO. It's like I guess it's the one that came out of the fucking ground. Like I can only assume that like that's like what happens in the plot. Like he, like some fucking LFO just like comes out of the ground and he like ends up piloting it. Like I guess it probably mirrors the events of the narrative, but it's like it's very strange. It's just it's like it you know what I mean? It's like there isn't really any tangible sensation that like this is how it actually plays out. I could be wrong, but regardless, even if this is literally what happens, at the very least, I'm sure the animation cut doesn't look that stilted. Anyways, it's now like just broad fucking daylight again with like no real basis to transition to that, right? And it's like, okay, whatever, right? It's like, we followed like pretty much the bog standard progression for how an OP should be structured, right? Albeit not with the greatest execution, but it's like, whatever, right? It's not offensively bad. It's just like, kind of like, it feels like it's kind of trying to do what the first OP did, but like just not really doing it as well, right? But it's like, whatever, right? Until you get to this fucking action sequence where it's just like, where we get this fucking just like we get a spinning action cut that's like actually incomprehensible. It's like what the fuck is even happening? Like just comparing this to the one in like it's like they're trying to do that same type of cut of like wow, the camera's spinning and it looks really fucking, exciting, but it's like but missing the entire point of like why those types of cuts worked in the original show because they were very well conceived and had like these visual indicators to keep a sense of to keep the visuals grounded on some level, but this is just like random shit happening. Like I don't fucking know what I'm looking at, right? It's just like it's like I don't know what just happened. It's just random bullshit, and then a character just flies out of it for some reason, and then as if it couldn't get fucking worse, just like uh-oh, like here's more supporting characters, just like where are they standing? Like they're just floating in like just ether space, I guess. It's like just so there's the other cardinal sin, just characters just standing like in the sky for no reason, and it's just like more PNGs. And then like it's also kind of like wasting the energy of like of the song at this point. It's whatever, like then we get like this weird cutaway to like this background shot, which admittedly looks gorgeous. Like this background is fucking beautiful. But then it's immediately sullied with these like for just more PNGs of supporting characters just standing in abstract space, like just floating in hell. It's like, and then like you get characters filling up like the left side of the screen, but then like they don't even the cut ends and they don't even add like characters on on the right side of the screen. I don't really know. I don't really know why. Like there's just I mean, I guess the credits are there, but it's like it still just feels really weird. Like why would you make it imbalanced like that? I don't know. It's like whatever. And then you get like this three cut uh sequence that juxtaposes the main character in like three different states, right? Running on the is a fucking little dumb kid, running after this thing is like a young adult, and now he's in his big fucking mech, chasing after it, right? But it's like, and it's like whatever, but like the cuts themselves just don't really flow that well into each other. Not to mention like this angle just looks really weird. Like the background just looks kind of just very strange. Like I don't know, just like the composite on like the background just looks a bit funky to me, with the way he's like I don't know. But then it's like you notice how like this shot is like super just empty and open and very bright. And then the next one just like, the next it just like dissolves into a cut where it's like now it's like just super empty but like also really dark and moody, and it's like the lighting the there's really no like why did the lighting just suddenly get all fucking damp? Like it doesn't really flow well visually. Like it's just kind of like a hard transition. Well, there's the dissolve, but like otherwise it's just kind of it's not visually appealing to just, see that kind of like transition without much visual reinforcement and then cutting back to just like super bright exposure with like the super white fucking clouds in the background. It's like, it's whatever, I guess. And then we come full circle, admittedly, and have them shoot up into the sky in that similar kind of cut. And we see the main character following suit before being pulled back down by fucking Da Vinci. And it's like, it's like fine, it's whatever, right? It's like, it's like he's being pulled back down. I like it. It it's not like fundamentally broken, right? But it's just like it just like feels like it's trying to capture like that same, trying to sort of tread this. It's treading the same ground as Eureka 7's OP, but just like kind of doing it like way worse, right? And then as if to fucking like the biggest fucking sin of all is the final cut where like the supporting cast like rounds up, and then you get this fucking pull out shot that like directly fucking just it's just a direct reference to the final shot of the OG opening, right? And it's like, because it's like, on the one hand, like you have the element of it basically just being like, whoa, dude, it's like that shot from the first opening, dude. It's like when it feels like it doesn't really feel earned in this just shitty sequel that doesn't need to exist. But also, the shot itself doesn't even like make sense because like in the original opening, the composition makes sense because the original show is in 4:3, right? So it's like this tight composition where the characters are just crowded together, standing in front of this fucking giant mech, works. But when you replicate that shot in like 16:9, it just like you just have all this empty ass space on the left and right, and it just looks awkwardly balanced. It's just like, and it feels like they kind of tried to make up for it by, well, first of all, like zooming out the shot way more to the point where like you can't even like see the like make out the details on the supporting characters here. So it's like it doesn't really do much in the way of like complementing the design strength and seeing how well they bounce off of each other. So it's like, and then like there's also just like these patterns on the ground which I assume are supposed to add like visual balance in place of just the empty fucking space which would be there otherwise, and it's just like why? Fuck this opening.